Alright, hello, welcome to game 5, which will be the last game of this cage match with Dominate and Keep, sorry. So looking at the board, there were a couple interesting things here. There's Haunted Woods as a focus, honestly, here the attack is going to be brutal. There's no way to trash your shelters. Well, almost no way to trash your shelters. You'll see later that there is a fringe chance you get to trash your shelters. I did consider something with Tactician here. I would love to play with Tactician, but it just doesn't seem to be that good. So Silver, trying to get to 5 to buy Haunted Woods and Cities. Bandit is also a consideration here. You could try to play with less Bandit and money, but I think the Haunted Woods wrecks you if you do that. So we both open the same way here, Engineer and Silver. The Engineer here, there's some tricks with Engineer, right? So you could double gain with Engineer as my opponent is doing here. He takes a couple Blessed Villages off the bat here. But what you could do is, and what I saw, is you could, when it comes I'll show you. Anyway, there's more to it than just gaining villages quickly. And there's a reason why you want Engineer over Ironworks. Ironworks is only good for the villages, and then after that, you don't want it in your deck. Engineer can trash itself, get out of the deck, and that's a big deal in a deck that suffers for trashing here. So another silver for my opponent. Pretty good boons for him there. He was able to get a Wisp and buy a couple villages and buy a silver. So I do have enough money for woods, as does my opponent. And here's the trick, right? So I'm going to take the boon first and then decide what it is that I want to do with this boon. Okay. Now or later, and then I have to decide what it is I want to do with the village. So I can't bounce this village back to the supply and pick up a changeling instead. So this is the trick I was alluding to earlier. I don't want to do that quite yet. I don't want to do that. Here, I'll take this boon now, of course, and I don't necessarily need 2 villages right now. I would rather bounce this village and pick up a changeling. Now, the reason for the changeling is a cheaper way to pick up Haunted Woods. Haunted Woods costs a lot of money, like exactly 5. I went into debt here to buy the engineer. Probably should have gone for a squire instead there. No, I think the engineer still, even though I'm in debt at this point in the game. And Haunted Woods with the Changeling works pretty well because I don't see the Changeling here, but I might see it on my next hand and Changeling will still work. However, there is a snag. There is a catch to this, and I didn't realize this until a bit later into the piece. The early Changelings might be okay. But what happens is that later in the game, when you are under constant Haunted Woods pressure, as soon as you buy something, that Changeling goes back on top of your deck and you cannot put it in play to gain something in play. It's junk. It's black junk in your deck at that point in the game. So you have to be a little bit careful here about what it is you want to do with these Changelings and when to stop gaining them. I don't see mine here. I think it's the last card in the deck, but fortunately I'll take the boon straight away and see the Changeling. So very good for me here. I'm able to gain another Haunted Woods, and I do bounce this village back and pick up another Changeling here. Again, I still didn't recognize the danger of gaining Changelings when my opponent has a couple Haunted Woods. He has 2, right? I only have the 1. I will get another one here, of course, but he might stick one down and play next turn, and then I can't really do anything with the Changelings. Little bit scary. 4. I'm going to replace the engineer here and gain my Haunted Woods. So we are 2 apiece on the Haunted Woods. I do not want to bounce the Haunted Woods for a Changeling, of course. And we'll see how things go from here. I don't really want to use the Changeling for a Blessed Village, but if I have to, I will. My opponent actually gets the Flames Gift here, so this is the only way to trash on the board, and he's able to knock an Overgrown Estate out of his deck, which is really, really good for him. Really, really good for him, given that Haunted Woods is on the board. It's just one less junk card in his deck that he has to deal with. Necropolis is fine because you could always put that into play, so you really have to be concerned with your overgrown estate and hovel. But the hovel again, that gets converted into a green card, so that's not the biggest deal. The overgrown estate was the best shelter for him to trash, and he was able to get it out of his deck. So I imagine he's pretty happy about that. So here, luckily I was able to use both my changelings so far, and now I see the danger, and I don't think I'm gonna pick up any more changelings. I'm just gonna um, take villages with these engineers. I choose to gain the silver there next turn, just to make my deck a little bit less clunky, less big, so that my villages and my haunted woods have a better chance of lining up. Definitely going to take this next turn when I have a bigger hand size than this. And I was kind of keeping track of the boons. I knew that the treasure ones were coming up. I didn't expect to get both of them in one hand though. Did not expect to get both of them in one hand. So I'm pretty happy to get that. Gold here is very nice to get. And again, buys are kind of tricky here. The only buy is Squire, which I do have one of here. And failing Squire, you have to get the right boon from the boon pile, right? So I'm happy with my Squire. It is a little bit cumbersome to draw it, but I'm happy that I have the plus buys for it, honestly. The plus buys from the Squire, I think it'll come into play later on in the game here. If I can manage to organize things, like organize here, I mean, I'm trying to have at least one Haunted Woods in play a turn from here, and then maybe set up two Haunted Woods in play, and then the villages will run out, and maybe the Haunted Woods will run out, and then cities will get real good. So I have to think about when it is I want to start buying cities, when I want to stop buying Haunted Woods, that kind of thing. Two for my opponent here. He doesn't buy anything because he wants to use his Changeling to get Haunted Woods, which is good. He's doing the right things. I think at this point I have one more Haunted Woods than him. So I was pretty happy with my position at this point in the game. I just needed to see them, come together. And here, this was very nice. This was very nice. I saw two of them here, so hopefully on my next turn I could see two more, and we can go from there. So 3 is really an uncomfortable amount of money. I do not want to get a Changeling at this point in the game. My opponent has a lot of Haunted Woods. It'll probably just end up being junky, so I decide not to do that. I didn't buy the silver there. Again, I have the Squire, which has the option of gaining silver as well. So if later down the road I need to gain a silver to move the keep points, I could do that with the Squire. I don't need to have the silver now. My opponent is going to end up with a bit more of the Blessed Villages than me, 6-4 I believe. I don't care, the city's on the board as both draw and as a source of plus action. So not at all worried that he won that split there. Perfectly fine with it, honestly. But he does manage to trash a couple times. He did trash a copper of the Flames gift again, which could be influential. That means he's given away 5 points to me there. So we'll see how influential that is in the future. So now all the Blessed Villages are gone, and I am going to start building here up on the city. So here, Squire coming through. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. This is why I bought the Squire. I'm thrilled at putting this work here. Thrilled at putting the work. The double city, that seems excellent for me. So now I have 200 woods, 400 woods, so I want to have 2 in play, and the city should get me through the rest of my deck. Things are looking nice. I have the gold. My opponent doesn't have the gold yet. I feel okay with my position here. I feel okay with my position. He does manage to get a buy, but so this is very interesting for him, right? He spends quite some time thinking here. This is his last turn where he'll have more than one buy. This is from the boon, the plus buy here. So if he wants, he could buy a Squire to make sure he gets plus buy in his subsequent turns. Or he could choose to get 2 cities, Haunted Wood City, a gold and a city, a gold and a Haunted Wood, something like that, a bandit and a city. I'm not sure. But basically, either he has to take the Squire and something, or play with 1 buy for the rest of the game. The Blessed Villages are out. You're not going to be getting random plus buys or gains anymore. So he actually chooses to buy a province here, so he gets rid of his hovel in doing so. And the 5 could be a squire, goes for the city. So he's telling me, look, I'm gonna play with one buy a turn from here on out. I said, okay, fine. I should be able to deal with that. I should be able to deal with that quite well. Here I kind of have to play through everything here, and 7 is an uncomfortable amount of money. On 8, maybe you could consider a province just to trash the hovel, but I think a city is still the correct thing to do here, despite, putting 2 cards on top of my deck there. Yeah, I know. But what can you do? I think I have to do that. Here, Changeling comes out for my opponent, so you see he had to forfeit his buy on that turn to play the Changeling to gain another Haunted Woods. 9 here, here's where I dip for the province. Here's where I dip for the province. I saw the play my opponent made a little bit earlier, and I decided to follow him. I wasn't too sure about getting to dominate on this board, but there is very good reason for going after dominate on this board, and that is because it gets around the Haunted Woods attack. You leave Haunted Woods around long enough and you start buying green cards, you are going to suffer. And I already am at a disadvantage with this overgrown estate for the Haunted Woods. So I really need and should be trying to make sure that I have lots of draw in my deck to get up to dominate to dodge the Haunted Woods. But I made a slight miscalculation in the end game here. I was thinking, okay, I have a slight points lead, which is why I gained the silver there of the squire. Maybe we could hit provinces and run down the provinces. I might get to the odd dominate. My opponent has 10 here. Goes for a city, which is the correct thing to do, and I'll tell you why soon. 11 here. I am going to buy a city as well. So what I was thinking is that, yeah, we mightn't actually get to dominate, and I might just want to run down the provinces as best as possible here and see how things go. 13 for my opponent, and not just 13, but drawing through a lot of his deck. A lot of his deck, all but one card, which is pretty good for him. Pretty good for him. And he gets our gold here, so now I know he has the money to dominate. My miscalculation was I thought even while he dominated, he would have to put the green cards on top of his deck. So we would both be stuttering, we would both have stall turns, even though he might be able to dominate alongside me as he did here. But it's not the case. 2 squires is too much. I shouldn't have 2 squires. That's wrong. I think here 1 squire is plenty. But yeah, so that is not the case here. Dominate dodges the Haunted Woods, and I thought it didn't. I thought once you gain green, Haunted Woods triggers, but it's not true. It's once you buy green, Haunted Woods triggers. So that was my mistake here. That influenced my building near the end. I should have been going for draw to dodge the Haunted Woods attack there, but I didn't, and I had the plus buys too to do it. I could have had more cities than my opponent, and probably been, or at least had a better deck, more cities. We would have had the same number of Haunted Woods. I'd have had the Squire. Plus buy could be very nice, very nice. But as it turns out, my opponent makes the better choices near the end of the game here. 13, he could buy the province. He only has 1 card in hand. But I think he is just going to buy the city, which is the correct thing to do. Absolutely the right thing to do here. Anything less than 14, I feel you buy city unless you're going to, activate cities. Meaning give them plus buy, and then you probably just lose because then 2 piles are out. There's 2 Haunted Woods left. Whoever has the points lead probably wins at that point. So here I don't get up to dominate. I am going to put the gold back on top of my deck. Maybe that'll help me get to dominate later. I do have 2 of them, so maybe if the 2 come together, I'll have enough points to dominate. I do have a points lead, so maybe I could run out the game on provinces, but dominate comes out for my opponent, and that's just too much for me to deal with. If I can dominate here, I might be okay, but I'm short $2, so not going to happen, not going to happen for me this game. And my opponent is pretty reliable. He has a lot of cities, more cities than I do. And he should be able to dominate one more time, and that should finish the game in his favor. So He wins this game, he knocks me out of the tournament, but that's fine with me. I'm pretty happy playing short tournaments at this stage in my life. And kudos to him, he played well here. And thanks to Seprix for organizing the tournament, the cage match tournament. I had a lot of fun, especially in this match. So thanks to amoffett for putting up a good show. Alright, so this brings us to the end of the Empire's Cage match for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tournament, whenever that is.